Three gyarus cornered a boy named Seia, calling him names and how his appearance irritates them. How dare he have prettier skin than them? He shivers in terror and asks them not to say these things, only annoying the gyarus more. As they go to berate him even further, a different voice rings out, telling them to shut up. The voice causes everyone to freeze before the main gyaru calls out to the owner of the voice to show themselves. A delinquent on the roof sat up from their nap, ruffling their hair. Jumping down, the gyarus recognized the delinquent as Jakuzure, a legend at their school. Jakuzure called them out for being noisy for a long time, and that they had the gall to disturb someone taking a lovely nap, as their eyes pierced through each and every one of them. With that punishing stare and withering voice, the gyarus give in and decide to bail, realizing that tangling with her isn't worth the trouble. Tutting in disappointment, Jakuzure comments to herself that these gyarus hate her too. Seia stares at her as he realizes who she is and what new mess he found himself in. Noticing the gyaru's quarry, Jakuzure's gaze shifts to him and begins to speak to him. She tells him that he's been bothering her, and now she wants a closer look. Slamming her hand past his head, he flinches but doesn't move as she questions what should be done with this wimp. The two lock eyes, disgust and distance emanating from Jakuzure, while Seiya's eyes trembled like a startled animal. Jakuzure manages to smile, complimenting Seiya's guts for managing to maintain eye contact with her for so long. Most guys would have turned away from her gaze as if she was Medusa. Looking closer, she notices something and holds his head in place as she gets a better look. She pulls at his skin and rubs his cheek, saying how cute his face is and how radiant his skin seems. She adds that it makes sense why the girls would be jealous of him, and that he really does match the beauty of a girl. Grabbing low suddenly, she questions if he has the proof to show that he really is a man. Squeezing and teasing him, she hears the moans and whining of Seia, and she can't help herself. She tells him the truth. She was just gonna tease, but this voice and reaction got her riled up, acting unwise even. She torments him more as he can do nothing but watch. Jakuzure thinks to herself that Seiya is making such a distressed and desperate look, but it doesn't make her want to stop. She finds it adorable, and it makes her want to do it more. Just as they reach the point of pure pleasure, Jakuzure stops. If Seia wants to experience bliss, he must make a deal with her. If he becomes her plaything, she will let him achieve bliss. He feels trapped in the moment and gives in, accepting the terms. After experiencing extreme pleasure, Jakuzure is impressed and begins to like him more. As she was about to leave, she remembers that she doesn't even know his name. Upon asking, he tells her. Seia Chihiro is his name. In a cheerful manner yet with a conniving stare, she tells him to come to the roof again tomorrow to play with her. And so, Seiya's days began with Jakuzure. Whenever he made a sound, Jakuzure would laugh with pleasure and blush with a wicked grin spreading across her face. Seia thought that it should be difficult for a wimp like him to deal with a delinquent like Jakuzure, but for some reason, when he's with her, it feels almost like they were becoming one, body and mind. He realized it was her eyes. Whenever they gazed down on him, it flooded his body with a shock that numbed him to his core. Before he knew it, he was a slave to those eyes and twisted stare. One day, Seia was delayed due to helping a senpai with her bags. Her cheery demeanor was a stark contrast to Jakuzure's. She patted him on the head like he was a dog and thanked him. He asked her to stop with the embarrassing gesture as he realized he was late. Turning to go to his master, he found that he was already tracked down by her. She commented that that girl must be crazy to talk to her toy. Locking eyes onto Seia, she summons him for a chat on the roof. She starts to tell him that she went looking for him since he was late to their appointment. But Jakuzure found Seia flirting with that girl, and a sick rage filled her. Seiya tries to deny it, but he's shoved away as Jakuzure declares punishment time. She stomps on Seiya, saying that he's making dirty faces. She snaps at him, saying that he must think that other senpai is better than her. Unable to be restrained, Seiya reaches bliss while still whimpering and crying from the unorthodox punishment. Jakuzure, towering over Seiya, came to a conclusion. That the weak and pitiful expression Seiya wore brought her pleasure, as she hungrily licked her lips. As Jakuzure continued to punish Seiya, she gleefully teased him for letting out such a cute voice with each punishment he received. Jakuzure couldn't hold in her delighted expressions, watching Seiya wriggle and writhe beneath her. He begged her to stop, but Jakuzure did the opposite, pushing further and landing a deep kiss on Seiya. Red-faced and teary-eyed, Seiya pleads again to be forgiven already, as the agony was written all over his face. Finishing the punishment, Jakuzure gets up and asks if Seiya learnt his lesson, and if he has, then he knows now not to flirt with any other women anymore. Seiya didn't respond, but cowered in fear against the wall, as Jakuzure approached, cautiously calling his name. Seiya leapt up and ran away crying, down the stairs and away from his tormentor. Jakuzure became distraught, as her pleas for Seiya not to leave fell on deaf ears. The one person she had in her life fled from her, and she was now all alone again. Pacing the roof, Jakuzure yelled at herself for overdoing it. Seiya was the only guy not afraid of her, and now she scared him off. She went too far, and now he'll never come back. Her wallowing in her own self-pity was interrupted by Seiya calling out her name. Stunned, she stuttered his name in utter disbelief before screaming out to him. Sitting awkwardly side by side, Jakuzure asks why Seiya came back. He claimed that he wanted to apologize for the day before when he fled. Jakuzure was flabbergasted as Seiya continued to explain that he just freaked out and ran away, and it caused her trouble. Jakuzure felt extreme guilt as Seiya confessed that he had something else that he wanted to say to her. Jakuzure feared that Seiya was tired of being around her and was going to officially sever ties with her. But the opposite happened as Seiya confessed to her, asking to be his girlfriend. The silence was deafening until Jakuzure screamed as she was completely taken aback by the confession, her face as red as her hair. She turned her face away to hide her blush, calling him an idiot for surprising her like that. After a few calming breaths, she slowly and clumsily asked what he liked about her. He confesses the truth that he learnt as he spent more and more time under her control, that he loved her eyes. Whenever her eyes were on him, his heart beats like a war drum. Recollections of all the times that she was teased, insulted, and bullied for her eyes. She can't believe that someone would say that they love her stare, even if Jakuzure herself hated it. Hearing that, she was so happy, continuing to turn away as her face became flushed again. Seiya continued saying that when they first met, she called him manly, which was a first for him. Ever since he was little, he was called a wimp because of his appearance. So, being called manly for the first time by Jakuzure made him unbelievably happy. She realized in her thoughts that her and Seiya are pretty much the same, suffering from others' opinions. Seiya then adds that their first meeting wasn't the best, since Jakuzure was so forceful against him. Feeling the guilt overwhelm her, Jakuzure apologizes loudly for going overboard with Seiya. Finally looking back into his eyes, she makes a decision. She looks away and promises to let Seiya do anything to her today, as an apology. Seiya took the offer with elation, asking if she was telling the truth. Seeing how happy he was, Jakuzure doubles down, saying a promise is a promise. Internally, she believed that he liked the punishment so much that he wanted more of it, while Seiya stared at her, twinkles appearing around him for the joy he was about to have. He twisted and turned her and left her exhausted after he received his apology physically from her. Frustrated, Jakuzure gently punishes him, saying she did give him permission, but he took it too far. What happens if she gets pregnant? Seiya instantly offers to take responsibility and make her happy. Slapping him, she yells at him to shut up. How dare he act so mature despite being younger than her? She then goes quiet, blushes, and mumbles something. Seia, not hearing what Jakuzure said, looks at her inquisitively before she repeats herself, red as can be, and in a pouty voice, "I want 3 kids," as Seia agrees with all his heart.